James Carville, who is appearing seemingly more and more on MSNBC now that Bernie Sanders is rising, and he despises Bernie Sanders, despite the fact that Carville's last major political victory was Bill Clinton's in 1992, and he ran Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign into the ground, so no one should seriously take him seriously. That's a long lead in to his latest deranged clip about Bernie Sanders on MSNBC.
The entire theory that by expanding the electorate, increasing turnouts, you can win an election is the equivalent of climate denying. All right, when people say that, they're as stupid to a political scientist as a climate denier is to an atmospheric scientist. So whatever you do, if you want to vote for Bernie Sanders because you feel good about his program, because you don't like the banks on Wall Street, or you don't like pharmaceuticals, that's completely legitimate. I understand that. If you're voting for him because you think he'll win the election, because he'll galvanize heretofore sleepy parts of the electorate, then politically you're a fool. And that's just a fact. It's no denying it. There's so much political science, there's so much research on this that it's not even a debatable question.
Sounds a lot like political suicide, and I think we need
It is.
Thank you, Republican strategist Nicole Wallace, for that. But James Carville cares a lot about science and data, clearly, right? So I'll give him some data about what he's saying about the Democratic electorate. Pollsters in a latest Washington Post, I think ABC poll, they asked Democrats what they think about Bernie Sanders' chances. They asked respondents, pollsters asked respondents who were Democrats or lean Democratic, which candidate they thought would win against Trump if that candidate were to represent the party in November. 72% said that they thought Sanders would defeat Trump in a one-on-one matchup, while 24% thought Trump would win and 4% had no opinion. Of all the Democratic candidates, Sanders was the one who respondents said they believed had the best chance of defeating the incumbent. So apparently an overwhelming majority of Democratic voters are akin to climate deniers in James Carville's warped worldview.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about seeing something like that is I know that at some point, hopefully, like fingers crossed, in a year, Jayar's gonna go back and play that as like a ha after the inauguration or something. But it doesn't matter. Like you can be wrong in this field over and over and over and over again. As long as they know you and like you, they'll just keep you around. And so I always wonder, what are you gonna say when it turns out that you're wrong? Because nobody will ever admit that they're wrong. There's always some other reason. So if Bernie ends up winning 60% of the vote against Trump in November, he's gonna say, oh, well, it's only because of this. There's always gonna be some sort of out. No one has to learn or evolve, change their strategy, adapt to new information, ever. That is simply the way that this industry works. And we know that he's dead wrong. I love that you have the information, and like, he says he doesn't bring in these disaffected groups who haven't been voting, and yet we know going back years, those are exactly the sort of people that vote for him over other Democratic candidates. But he doesn't care. He's not saying what he thinks is true. He's saying what he wants to be true.
I just want everyone to notice that Chiron. That is incredible.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So James Carville is representing this traditional political analysis, and he pointed that out. So it's inarguable. He can't even argue about the fact that if you look enough political science and political history, that this isn't going to work out. So this is, we're going to bring in sports. This is similar to the way people would say historically in sports, this team has never won on the road in the playoffs. Dating back to 1968.
Different team,
different year, different opponent,
right.
Different stadium, different player, everything is different. So when it comes to something like political analysis, you've always seen that establishment Democrats, or at least the normal, what we perceive, the electorate perceives, which of course the electorate changes. We've had laws that didn't allow people to vote at different times in our history. And also people that are energized in the things that are happening in the country that would force people to come out more. All these things change. When factors like that change and things are unprecedented, like we have a reality show TV host in the White House, as one of those factors, and a blatantly open racist in the White House is one of those factors, things change. Or when people's lives are at a different point than they ever were before, and they see someone who's actually saying the things that no one else is saying, and they get behind him, things change. So you can say historically, the Cubs just can't win a World Series because they hadn't in forever. And that's factual. But you know what? It happens until it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
It's always been that way. So when you see the reality of something happening, or the Red Sox, they just can't get by the Yankees. Hey, they did it. Or hey, a team has never come back from down 3-0 in a series until it happens. So to say it's inarguable that this can never happen is just saying what you've seen in history. It doesn't mean it can never happen. So your analysis is just based off of past things. You have to read what's happening right now. And if you refuse to do that, you're gonna look bad.
No, it's a classic fallacy. People believe that things have to continue the way they are because they've always been that way. But this is an entirely new set of circumstances. Again, if Carville's analysis is so brilliant, how did a far-right candidate beat a moderate, a centrist? He thinks that the center of all things is how you win in politics. It's just been disproven. It was just disproven 3 years ago, right? 4 years ago. We know how that ended up. A far-right candidate won. A far-left candidate, a populist whose message resonates with people way more than Trump's does, can certainly win, and I would argue has the best chance to win.
I agree. And I think the American people are catching up to us on that. I think that after what is probably gonna be a great showing on Super Tuesday, I think that those numbers will shift even more. I think that a lot of the people who have been saying over the past year that not just Sanders, but almost any of the Democrats don't have a great chance is they hate Trump, they hate what he's done to this country, they see him get away with everything, and so there's a lot of defeatism. But now they're seeing someone who is gathering big crowds, getting tons of donations, winning regularly. That is inspirational. And I think, look, I understand we all come from a perspective, but personally, I think it's a good thing that we feel inspired for once after 3 hell years. I don't know why James Carville is so intent on doom and gloom. Although I do, he wants Sanders to go down. He doesn't care that Sanders will go down in his mind. He wants him to go down.
Yeah, it's just everything he's been taught. It makes it like he can't compute with his mind. So the fact that he's still called on to MSNBC to give analysis is insane. This is not a meritocracy, and we should all be getting contributor contracts from them. But alas, I'm not bitter at all.
Nope, not coming across that way.
Yeah.
Don't miss your chance to win a trip to Los Angeles and have dinner with Cenk, John, and me. Just head to tyt.com/dinnerinla to register to win. Sign up for a free Aspirations spend and save account. Then you just register your eligibility and swipe your Aspiration card daily on purchases to gain entries. Not only are you entering to win a trip to Los Angeles and dinner with TYT hosts, you're also not depositing your hard-earned money into fossil fuel exploration or production. As a friendly reminder, even if you already have an Aspiration account, you must still register for eligibility into the sweepstakes.